But here's what most people don't realize. If you're waking up tired, with cold hands, a foggy mind, and a body that just doesn't feel alive anymore, you're not broken. Your circulation is. I'm Dr. Barbara O'Neill, a board-certified urologist and men's health physician, and I speak every day with men in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who feel exactly like you do right now. And what I'm about to share with you is something so simple, yet so overlooked, that it can quietly change how your body feels before noon. It's not a pill, it's not a prescription. It's something most men drink every single morning, but in a way that actually shuts down their blood flow instead of supporting it. So before we go any further, tell me where you're watching from, and if this resonates with you, tap like and subscribe so you don't miss what I'm about to reveal next. But here's what most people don't realize. The way your body feels in your 50s, 60s, and 70s is not simply getting older, even though that's what you've probably been told your whole life. I see men walk into my office every single week who feel exhausted when they wake up, who notice their hands and feet are always cold, who struggle to think clearly, and who quietly worry about their erections not being what they used to be. And almost every one of them has been told the same thing by someone somewhere: this is just what aging looks like. But the truth is far more specific and far more hopeful. What you're really feeling is what happens when blood flow begins to slow down. As we age, our blood vessels slowly lose their flexibility. When you were younger, those vessels were soft and elastic, able to widen easily and deliver oxygen and nutrients exactly where your body needed them. But years of inflammation, sugar spikes, stress, poor sleep, and hidden insulin resistance start to stiffen the walls of those vessels. They become narrow, rigid, and less responsive. And when that happens, everything downstream begins to suffer. Your muscles don't get enough oxygen. Your brain doesn't get the steady flow it needs to stay sharp. And the most sensitive tissues in your body, including the ones responsible for erections, are the first to feel the loss. One of the most important molecules in this whole story is something called nitric oxide. You don't need to remember the name, but you should understand what it does. Nitric oxide is what tells your blood vessels to relax and open. It's what allows blood to surge into the penis when you're aroused. It's what feeds your heart, your brain, and your muscles. And here's the quiet tragedy of aging. As inflammation rises and blood sugar stays elevated, your body produces less and less nitric oxide. So even if your heart is still pumping, the pipes themselves are slowly tightening. This is why so many men feel like their bodies are betraying them. You might have a decent diet. You might even exercise a little. Your doctor might tell you your cholesterol and blood pressure are normal. But normal on a lab sheet doesn't mean optimal for circulation. Those lab ranges are designed to catch disease, not to guarantee that your blood vessels are healthy, flexible, and alive. I see men every week who think they have low testosterone because they're tired, moody, and struggling in the bedroom, but what they really have is starving blood vessels. Their hormones may be fine on paper, but their tissues are underfed. Poor circulation shows up in ways most men don't connect. It shows up as that heavy, drained feeling in the afternoon when you can't focus. It shows up as waking up unrefreshed even after a full night in bed. It shows up as weaker, less reliable erections. Not because you don't want intimacy, but because blood simply isn't arriving with the force it once did. It even shows up as anxiety and low mood because your brain is one of the most oxygen-hungry organs in your body. When blood flow drops, so does clarity, motivation, and emotional resilience. What makes this even harder is that men are taught to be tough, to push through, to not complain. So instead of saying something feels wrong, they say, I guess this is just aging. They feel invisible in their own bodies. They don't recognize the man in the mirror anymore. And the medical system often reinforces this by focusing on numbers instead of function. If your labs are okay, you're sent home, even though you still don't feel okay. But here's what almost no one tells you, and this is where everything starts to change. There is one simple mistake most men make first thing in the morning that shuts down circulation before their day even begins. And when you fix that one thing, blood flow can start to return in a way that feels almost surprising. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you exactly what that mistake is. But here's what most people don't realize. The very drink you reach for every morning, the one you believe is giving you energy and clarity, may actually be doing the exact opposite to your circulation. In fact, for many men over 50, it's quietly tightening blood vessels, thickening the blood, and setting the stage for fatigue, anxiety, and weaker erections before the day has even begun. I'm talking about coffee and sometimes tea, and I want to be very clear about something right away. I'm not anti-coffee, I'm anti what it's doing to men's arteries when it's used the wrong way. When you wake up in the morning, your body is already in a natural state of stress. Your cortisol, which is your main stress hormone, is at its highest point of the day. That's what helps you wake up and get moving. But it also makes your blood vessels slightly tighter and your blood a little thicker because your body thinks it needs to be ready for action. Now, when you pour caffeine on top of that, especially on an empty stomach, you amplify that stress response. Your heart rate increases, your blood pressure rises, and your blood vessels constrict even more. To your brain, it feels like alertness. To your arteries, it feels like an emergency. At the same time, most men wake up dehydrated. You haven't had any water for 6, 7, 8 hours. Your blood volume is lower, which means your blood is more concentrated and more sluggish. Then you add a strong dehydrating stimulant like coffee without replacing any fluid first, and your blood thickens even further. Thick blood doesn't flow well through stiff, aging arteries. It moves slowly, it struggles to reach the smallest vessels. And those smallest vessels are the ones that feed your brain, your hands, and your sexual organs. This is why so many men tell me they feel wired but tired after their morning coffee. They feel a burst of nervous energy, but not real vitality. Their hands might shake, their heart might race, they might even feel a little anxious or irritable. And a few hours later, they crash. Their energy drops, their focus disappears, and their body feels heavy again. That's not because coffee is bad. It's because their circulation was never supported in the first place. You can even see this in the bedroom. A man might feel mentally interested in sex, but his body doesn't respond the way it used to. Erections feel weaker, take longer, or don't last. And it's confusing because he thinks, I'm awake, I'm stimulated, I had my coffee, why isn't my body cooperating? The answer is simple and uncomfortable. Blood is not flowing freely, and caffeine on an empty, dehydrated, stressed system makes that worse, not better. What breaks my heart is that men often blame themselves. They think they're anxious, they think they're depressed, they think their testosterone is gone, but what they're really experiencing is a circulation crash that starts with that very first cup in the morning. Doctors rarely talk about this because, again, it doesn't show up on standard lab tests. Your cholesterol might look fine, your blood pressure might be okay when you're sitting in an office, but the dynamic, real-time behavior of your blood vessels is completely different when you're dehydrated and overstimulated. The truth is, the problem is not the drink itself. Coffee and tea can actually be very healthy when used correctly. The problem is how and when you're consuming it. If you pour caffeine into a dry, stressed, inflamed body, you get constriction, not circulation. But if you prepare your body the right way, before that first sip, something very different happens. And this is where things get exciting, because when you change one simple thing before that first sip, your circulation can begin to improve in as little as 10 minutes. And in the next moment, I'm going to show you exactly what that one thing is. But here's what most people don't realize. The fastest way to improve circulation is not to stimulate your body. It's to rehydrate and resupply it. That's why the morning drink I have my patients use before they ever touch coffee is not another stimulant, but a simple, mineral-rich, nitric oxide supporting hydration drink. It doesn't come in a fancy bottle. It doesn't promise miracles. But inside your body, it does something incredibly powerful. It restores the volume and chemistry of your blood so it can actually move the way it's supposed to. When you drink plain water in the morning, you do help rehydrate, but you don't fully fix the problem. Your blood is not just water, it's a complex fluid filled with electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and magnesium that control how much fluid stays in your bloodstream and how well your muscles and blood vessels function. Without those minerals, water tends to pass right through you. But when you add even a small amount of electrolytes, your body pulls that water into your plasma, expanding your blood volume. And more blood volume means more pressure, more flow, and more oxygen delivery everywhere, including to your brain and your sexual organs. Now here's where nitric oxide comes back into the story. Certain natural compounds, especially those found in things like citrus, beets, and even a small amount of sea salt, help your body produce more nitric oxide. When nitric oxide rises, your endothelial cells, the thin lining inside your blood vessels, begin to relax. The vessels widen, resistance drops, blood can move freely again. This is the exact same pathway that prescription erection drugs use, but this drink supports it gently and naturally, starting at the source. So what is this drink really? At its simplest, it's water combined with a pinch of high-quality salt, a squeeze of lemon or lime, and sometimes a small amount of a nitric oxide supporting ingredient like beet powder. That combination rehydrates you, restores electrolytes, and signals your blood vessels to open. And the beauty of it is that it works quickly. Within minutes, plasma volume rises, blood pressure stabilizes in a healthy way, and circulation improves. This is why men often tell me they feel warmer, clearer, and more alive after drinking it. Their hands aren't as cold. Their brain feels sharper. And yes, their erections feel stronger because blood is finally arriving where it's supposed to go. It's not about stimulation. It's about giving your body what it's been missing. I've watched men who struggled for years with fatigue and sexual performance feel different within a week of starting this. Not because it's magic, but because their blood vessels are finally being treated with respect. Instead of being shocked with caffeine in a dehydrated state, they're being supported with fluid, minerals, and nitric oxide. This is what I have my patients drink before they touch coffee. It turns coffee from a stressor into a tool, because now their vessels are open and their blood is flowing. They still get the mental lift, but without the crash, the jitters, or the constriction. But here's the part that makes this truly powerful. When you pair this drink with one small, simple habit, the effect multiplies. And in the next moment, I'm going to show you exactly what that habit is. But here's what most people don't realize. It's not just what you drink in the morning that matters. It's what you do with your body in the minutes that follow that determines how well your blood will flow for the rest of the day. I've seen men reverse years of fatigue, brain fog, and sexual frustration just by changing their first 30 minutes after they wake up. And it's because that window in the morning is when your circulatory system is the most responsive to gentle guidance. After you drink that mineralized nitric oxide supporting water, your blood volume begins to rise and your vessels start to relax. But blood is meant to move. So the next step is simple, light movement. You don't need a gym, you don't need to sweat. Just walking around your house, stretching your arms, rolling your shoulders, or stepping outside for a few minutes tells your heart and vessels that it's time to circulate. That movement pushes freshly hydrated blood into the smallest capillaries, including those in your brain and your pelvic area. Breathing plays a huge role here too. Slow, deep breaths through your nose stimulate the vagus nerve, which tells your blood vessels to relax even further. When you're stressed or rushing, your breathing is shallow and that keeps your vessels tight. But when you slow your breath, blood flow improves almost instantly. This is why some men feel a surprising sense of calm and warmth when they combine hydration, movement, and breathing in the morning. And then there's sunlight. Just a few minutes of natural light on your eyes and skin helps reset your circadian rhythm, which controls cortisol and melatonin. When cortisol is balanced, your blood vessels behave better all day. When melatonin is set properly, you sleep deeper at night, which further reduces inflammation and improves circulation. This is how a simple morning ritual begins to echo through your entire 24-hour cycle. So here is what I recommend. Wake up, drink your mineralized water with a squeeze of citrus, move gently for 5 to 10 minutes, breathe slowly, step into the light if you can, then and only then have your coffee. Waiting even 15 to 20 minutes makes a huge difference. By that point, your blood is flowing, your vessels are open, and caffeine becomes a tool instead of a strain. What should you avoid? Avoid starting your day in a rush. Avoid going straight to coffee. Avoid scrolling on your phone in bed, which keeps your nervous system in a stressed state. Those habits all tighten blood vessels and undo the good you're trying to create. This ritual is not complicated, but it is powerful. It supports your heart, your brain, your energy, and yes, your erections, because blood flow in the morning sets the tone for the entire day. When you start with openness instead of constriction, your body carries that forward. This isn't about youth, it's about restoring what your body is still capable of. And the most important thing I want you to know is this: it's not too late. But here's what most people don't realize. The hardest part of all of this isn't the fatigue or the weak erections or even the brain fog. It's the quiet shame that creeps in when your body no longer responds the way it used to. I've sat across from so many men who feel embarrassed to even say out loud that they don't feel like themselves anymore. They're tired all the time. They avoid intimacy because they're afraid of disappointing their partner. They worry that this is just the beginning of a slow decline. And because men are taught to stay strong and silent, they carry that fear alone. Most men don't talk about this. They joke about getting older or they shrug it off, but inside they're grieving a version of themselves that felt alive, confident, and capable. They miss waking up with energy. They miss feeling sharp. They miss feeling desired. And the medical system rarely gives them a language for what's really happening, so they assume it's their fault or their age. But I want you to hear this clearly because it changes everything. Your body isn't broken, it's undersupplied. It's been running on low blood flow, low oxygen, and low nourishment for years, and now it's finally letting you know. Circulation means life. When blood flows, tissues heal. When blood flows, nerves wake up. When blood flows, confidence returns because your body remembers how to respond. I've watched men in their 60s and 70s get their spark back when their circulation improves. Not because they became 20 again, but because their tissues were finally being fed. They sleep deeper, they wake up clearer, they feel stronger in their bodies and more present in their relationships. And that changes how they see themselves. You are not weak for wanting to feel better. You are not selfish for wanting energy, intimacy, and dignity. Those are basic human needs. And the fact that you're here listening means part of you still believes that things can improve. You don't have to do this alone. There is a community of men who are walking this same path, learning how to care for their bodies instead of fighting them. And in just a moment, I'm going to invite you into that space so you can keep building on what you've learned today. But here's what most people don't realize. The hardest part of all of this isn't the fatigue or the weak erections or even the brain fog. It's the quiet shame that creeps in when your body no longer responds the way it used to. I've sat across from so many men who feel embarrassed to even say out loud that they don't feel like themselves anymore. They're tired all the time. They avoid intimacy because they're afraid of disappointing their partner. They worry that this is just the beginning of a slow decline. And because men are taught to stay strong and silent, they carry that fear alone. Most men don't talk about this. They joke about getting older or they shrug it off. But inside, they're grieving a version of themselves that felt alive, confident, and capable. They miss waking up with energy. They miss feeling sharp. They miss feeling desired. And the medical system rarely gives them a language for what's really happening, so they assume it's their fault or their age. But I want you to hear this clearly because it changes everything. Your body isn't broken. It's undersupplied. It's been running on low blood flow, low oxygen, and low nourishment for years. And now it's finally letting you know circulation means life. When blood flows, tissues heal. When blood flows, nerves wake up. When blood flows, confidence returns because your body remembers how to respond. I've watched men in their 60s and 70s get their spark back when their circulation improves, not because they became 20 again, but because their tissues were finally being fed. They sleep deeper, they wake up clearer, they feel stronger in their bodies and more present in their relationships, and that changes how they see themselves. You are not weak for wanting to feel better. You are not selfish for wanting energy, intimacy, and dignity. Those are basic human needs. And the fact that you're here listening means part of you still believes that things can improve. You don't have to do this alone. There is a community of men who are walking this same path, learning how to care for their bodies instead of fighting them. And in just a moment, I'm going to invite you into that space so you can keep building on what you've learned today. But here's what most people don't realize. That simple morning drink you were wondering about isn't magic at all. It's physiology. It's your blood, your vessels, and your body finally getting what they've been asking for. When you hydrate, mineralize, and support nitric oxide before you stimulate, you give your circulation the chance to come back online. And that's what changes how you feel when you wake up, how steady your energy is through the day, and how confident you feel in your body again. If this helped you, I want you to join our community and subscribe so you never miss guidance built specifically for men over 50. This channel exists for men who don't want to quietly fade into fatigue and frustration, but who want to understand their bodies and take care of them with intelligence and dignity. When you're part of this community, you're not just watching videos, you're walking a path toward better circulation, better sleep, and a stronger sense of self. You deserve confidence in your body. You deserve energy that lasts past noon. You deserve deep, restorative sleep that lets you wake up feeling clear instead of drained. And you deserve to feel like a man who is present, capable, and connected to the people he loves. I tell my patients this all the time, and I'll tell you now. You deserve to feel strong in your body again. You deserve deep sleep, clear thinking, and satisfying intimacy. Take care of your health because you are worth it.